So I came today to talk about what it's going to look like for us to win in the age of tyranny. Sisters and brothers, we are living under a dictatorship. And if you haven't gotten to my level yet, we're living under fascism. And I don't know what else has to happen, what other horrible things have to happen to different communities. Is stripping babies from their mothers at the borders, is that not outrageous enough? Is putting gag rules on women's bodies and the continued attacks on our reproductive rights, is that not enough? Is putting 800,000 young people at fear of deportation and by extension 12 million of their family members? Are the raids in our communities, at our businesses, at the local courts, in the streets, the street vendors, is that not enough for us? Is a Muslim ban not enough? And we're going to wait, hopefully this month, to hear a decision in the Supreme Court that we, and I will say this here, may not go very well for us. Stripping health care from 23 million Americans, 8 million children. Our president saying that he could pardon himself if he wanted to. I mean, I don't know what else has to happen for us in this country to wake up and to realize that there are people's lives on the line and that there are people who are counting on us. To be clear, Trump didn't introduce racism to me, or misogyny, or sexism, or xenophobia, or Islamophobia, or anti-Semitism, or transphobia. He didn't introduce those things to me. These were things that I was fighting against well before there was ever a Donald Trump. But what I will say is that right now we have a moment when we have a clear adversary in the White House who continues to hire some of the most notorious homophobes, Islamophobes, xenophobes, you name it, they got it in the White House. That this is our moment to understand that the way we will win is through solidarity and showing up for one another. It's not a question of whether we will win, it is we have to win because our lives depend on it, and the most marginalized people's lives depend on it. As a Muslim American, I think about something that happened in our country only 76 years ago. And there are still people amongst us who still live at this time who remember what happened 76 years ago. When our country decided to intern Japanese Americans, it wasn't like a guy woke up one morning and said, I got a great idea. Let's go to the homes of Japanese Americans and arrest them and their children and put them onto camps on this US soil. What had happened was years of propaganda and a campaign that vilified, criminalized, and made Japanese Americans a suspect community. What did they say about the Japanese? They said the Japanese were not to be trusted. The Japanese did not have the capability of being loyal to these United States of America, that the Japanese were the enemies within and that we had to protect ourselves from the Japanese. Fast forward 2018, who are they saying that about now? The Muslims are not to be trusted. The Muslims do not have the capability of being loyal to these United States of America, that Islam and the Constitution are incompatible, that Muslims are the enemies within. So we will create policies that will continue to further marginalize Muslim Americans, including saying that there are certain Muslims that are not welcomed in our country. So what do we have to do to protect one another? We talk a lot about this. There's a lot of theories out there. There's a lot of people that put things out. But I'm an organizer. If we're going to truly love and protect one another, we have to get to know one another. And what we've been taught in this country is individualism. And we walk by each other in the street. We don't look people in the eye. And that's just how we kind of continue on in our day. Sometimes we work in companies and corporations. We don't even know the name of the guy who works 4 cubicles down from us. We live in apartment buildings. We don't know who lives down the hall from us. So I'm encouraging you today to just, let's go to the basics. Knock on your neighbor's door. Say good morning. Say hello. How are you doing? This is my name. If you ever need anything, I'm right next door. It could be a black person. It could be an undocumented mother who has children that one day ICE might show at her doorstep. And guess what? You may be the person that's able to save her or stand in the way or maybe even take her children for refuge as she's taken away by ICE. So I implore you to get to know your neighbors and those who you are closest to. also want you to be aware of what's happening around us. There are forces that are trying to divide our movements, forces that come in between us and are actually leveraging the differences that we have on issues. And I want to make it clear that in order for us to win, we have to have one very basic understanding, that this movement that we are part of is not about unity. And we will never create a united movement. You know why? Because we are not all the same people. Unity is not uniformity. So we have to understand that we come from different places and different experiences, that a black woman does not have the same experience as a white woman, that an undocumented mother does not have the same experience as a Muslim mother. So because we come from different experiences, we have different positions on policies and pieces of legislation, that is not enough to divide us in the movement. That we have to be able to show up and be uncomfortable in a space. That we have to show up in a movement and understand that we will sit on the table with people that we may not agree with on a particular political issue. The important thing is that when we're in a movement, that we are sitting in spaces always that realize that we are human beings and deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. In order for us to win, we have to center the most marginalized people. We cannot have a movement fighting for justice if the people who have the most at stake are not leading us in the line. So as I organize and you see the work that I do, the most directly impacted people are always centered. They're always at the front lines, including at the Women's March, where we made spaces for mothers of the movement, for trans folks, for undocumented people, for LGBTQ people, for Muslims, for refugees. It is important that we put forth those who have the most at stake, because those people know where justice is, because they need to have justice in order to live full and healthy lives. I also ask you in this election season that we put our self-righteous politics to the side. And that as an organizer and someone who believes in full liberation, I don't believe that the ballot box is going to free us all. But what I do believe the ballot box does is it stops the hemorrhaging in our communities. It holds those accountable. It stops the rollback on some of the rights that many communities have fought for a long time for us to have. So in this upcoming election, wherever you are from, whoever you're connected to in different parts of the country, implore them to go to the polls. It is our responsibility. There are people who literally fought and died for us to have that right to participate in democracy. And when you do that, think about who you're voting for. There are record numbers of black women who are running in every corner of this country, of immigrants that are running in every corner of this country, members of marginalized communities and refugees and LGBTQ people. These are people who didn't have to run for this, who didn't have to put themselves in this public way. But they know that they are the ones that we have been waiting for, and they are the ones that they have been waiting for. So let's put some folks that look like those of us in this room. What's the worst that's going to happen? We've seen a lot of really bad things. And I'll end by saying to all of you that I never understood why our opposition is so well resourced. How is it that there are so much resources around hate and divisiveness, but then we can't find the same resources for people who are united around diversity and inclusion and solidarity and unity? Like, what is it about our side? We have the resources. And what I'm asking all of you to do is to invest in the organizations and the leaders that you saw here today, people doing courageous work, and people who, quite frankly, didn't have to do that work, people who could be some of the most brightest people that we have in our country, could be doing a lot of more important things somewhere else, making a lot more money, but they have chosen to dedicate their lives to social justice, to ensuring that in this country that we live in, that we have a responsibility that everybody be treated with dignity and respect. And I will say to all of you today that regardless of all that I have endured and all the things that I have seen, you can count on your Palestinian Muslim sister from Brooklyn, New York, to be on the front lines, because I believe wholeheartedly in this, and I also believe that my children deserve to live in a country that embraces them for being beautiful brown Muslim children, Palestinian, and whatever other identities they choose to hold, that all of our children deserve to live in a country that respects them and loves them and embraces them for everything that they are. Thank you very much for our speakers.